Smile, be, chat, join for networking.
Good morning, everybody. It's so lovely to see you here this morning. My name is Sheena Whyatt. I run a company called Lightning Training, and I also run a program called Kapow that helps turn business owners into business superheroes. But do you know what? I'm not actually going to talk to you very much about that in this particular time. What I'm going to do is to talk to you about how I got there, because everybody has a backstory. And my backstory helped me go from zero to hero in a really short space of time. And I want to share that with you, and also how 4Networking was a really big part of that. So I'm going to take you back, way back, to around about, well, if I could actually tell you the year, it's going to give my age away a little bit. But we all remember, of course, where we were and what we were doing on 9/11 day. Okay, and I was at work. I was employed then as a full-time IT trainer. It is the equivalent of doing time in purgatory. And I was employed by a company in Basingstoke. My husband is a pilot in the Air Force. He was a helicopter pilot at that time. And the company that I worked for were an American company. And as soon as 9/11 happened, things started to go very badly wrong in that they had a major panic on. They closed down production and the company. Everybody was told to go home. And I remember sitting in the car park with the radio on as I was listening to what was happening and trying to take on board what on earth was going on. And I just remember at that point thinking, whatever happens now, my life is going to change. Because my husband is in the military, he's in active service, he flies helicopters. Our nice, comfortable life in Hampshire that mostly involved being able to socialise with chums and go to nice events with posh frocks, all of a sudden this has actually become quite real. And I remember sitting in the car and thinking, okay, Sheena, well, let's see how this goes. And I drove back home. And in the space of that time, which is around about half an hour from where I worked to going back home, my husband, Ollie, had been on deployment when they go away in Germany. The entire squadron had been recalled and were already back at RAF Odium, and 18 hours later he went to war for the first time. And I remember standing at the edge of the sports field. We lived on the RAF station at that point. I'd just like to point out they're stations, not bases or camps, just like to make that clear. And I went to go and say goodbye. That's one of the hardest things I've ever done, because I watched him walk away across the sports field. And I remember saying to him, whatever you do, don't turn around. Don't turn around, just keep walking, because I'm going to be in pieces, and that is not what you need to see. Because the first time he went to war, I didn't know if he was going to come back. So this was proper scary shit, frankly. And as he walked across the sports field at 5 o'clock in the morning to go and take his squadron to war in Afghanistan, I had a bit of an epiphanal moment. Because I stood there and I thought, do you know what? Actually, I hate my job. I hate my boss. I hate what I'm doing. I hate working for somebody else. So I'm not going to do it anymore. I quit. And I literally went back into the house, waited until it was 8 o'clock, phoned up my boss and said, I'm not coming back. Then I had an utter panic, because then I thought, holy crap, what am I going to do now? You know, it's like, I've just sent my husband off to war. Cheerio, darling. Hope you come back. Do tell me where the life insurance policy is and where, in case I need it. And I've just given up my job. What was I doing? And I was sober, which, you know, unusual for me. But I then sat down and did the only thing that I thought was sensible. Called up a chum, another Air Force wife, obviously living on the station, and said, can I come and have a chat with you? I've just done something that I think might be a bit stupid, and I need to just talk it through. So we sat outside in her back garden for a good couple of hours. It did involve Prosecco. It was past lunchtime by that point. And she basically, after an hour or so, just said to me, Sheena, just do it. What's the worst that's going to happen? So I started as a freelance trainer then. I started as a freelance trainer on September the 11th. That was a really great idea. Not. You know, the world was imploding. Nobody knew what the hell was going on. And I went, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to start off in business by myself. Good planning, Sheena. Well done. Business plan? Oh, sod that for a game of soldiers. Who needs one of those? Let's just jump in and have a go. And that's exactly what I did. I jumped in and I had a go. And I just started working. That's basically all I could do, was just pimp out the whole, you know, hi, I can train this, I can train that. I specialised in doing quite a lot of IT training at that point, and then I moved into public speaking training and presentation skills, all that stuff. And do you know what? People started buying it, and that was lovely. And you know, the day that your first kind of bit of paid work comes in is like Christmas and your birthday all rolled up into one. And the momentum started to build. And after about 3 or 4 years, I was really lucky, and I was in the position then where I had more work than I could do by myself. And that's when I started to build my team. And I started to build my team of freelance trainers who would subcontract with me. And then about a year after that, it got so busy that I decided I need to make the jump into doing it properly. Notice how I do that thing, okay? Because doing it properly meant doing some scary stuff. It meant going from being a sole trader into a limited company. That was scary because all of a sudden it was like grown up and everything, and I'd had to sign stuff and all of that kind of thing. And I carried on with that for about a year after I turned Lightning Training into a limited company. And as I say, building up the team, things are going really, really well. I'd been on a long-term project with a medical sales company for a while, met somebody during that project. We got on very well. And so I decided at that point it would be a really good idea to have him help me in the business. Yeah. Biggest, I think, mistake I ever made. And I'm going to tell you why. Because it's a really major part of where I am now. So this person who was my friend, and this person in my family remains nameless. In fact, we call him he who shall not be named, because otherwise somebody will do damage to something of a static object if we do. So this particular person, who, as I say, was my friend, came into the business, helped me run the business for about a year. We took on a massive contract with the Ministry of Justice, which was very exciting and also extremely terrifying at the same time. And in the process of that, I moved. My husband was posted from RAF Odium down near Basingstoke to RAF Linton-on-Ouse, which is up near Yorkshire. And that meant, of course, I was not around as much. You can start to see where this is going now, can't you? So I wasn't around as much. We had this massive contract with the Ministry of Justice, which was based in London, and I ended up having to be in London, which is not where I wanted to be at all. And I was in London 4 days a week. So I was travelling down on a Monday, travelling back on a Thursday, and then attempting to pick up all the pieces of the business on a Friday. Let me tell you right now, if anybody is kind of thinking about doing something like that, don't do it. Okay? You can't do both. It's ridiculous. And so I'm burning the candle at both ends. And because I'm not around, I cannot see what's going on. But I also couldn't see what was going on with me. And after a while, I was a bit resentful. No, I wasn't a bit resentful. I was a lot resentful of having to be away from home as much as I was. And I came back from a particular week down in London that had been trickier than most. It had been one of those, you know, where you just think, I want to kill someone, I don't care who it is, just anyone, you'll do. And I got home and there's a pile of mail, you know, as you would expect. And I'm going through the mail and I'm talking to my husband, Ollie, and I'm having a glass of wine and I get to a letter from HMRC. And I open up this letter from HMRC expecting it to be something to do with corporation tax. No, it wasn't. It was a letter informing me that I was no longer managing director of my own company. My business partner had forged my signature on papers and stood me down as the managing director of my own company. That was a bit of a game changer because I stood there and thought, oh my God. But then I actually thought, okay, after I'd fallen apart, collapsed, had a screaming fit, you know, all that kind of stuff, it was my husband who said, I think this might actually be for the best. And of course, as you do, I turn with the whole, what the hell do you know kind of, you know, response, you know, how dare you kind of thing. And I married you, I did not ask you for your opinion. And he just went, I want you to have a look at what's going on with you. And what I'd not seen for the 4 years that this person, he who shall not be named, was in my life was how controlling he was. And I hadn't seen that. Anybody who has been in an emotionally abusive relationship of any kind will tell you, you are the last one to know. You are the last one that sees what's going on. Let me give you a couple of examples, because these still make the back of my neck go a bit cold. So a couple of times a year, he who shall not be named would come into my office with a suit. And he would come to me and he'd say, Sheena, here's a suit for you. You're going to need to lose a few pounds because you're a bit fat. He would then say to me, I've made an appointment for you to have your hair done because the blonde's a bit trashy and slutty, so you're going to go and get it changed. He would bring me shoes to wear and say, you have to put those on because you see, it makes me shake even now, and that's anger, you know, because your style's really shit and you're not going to get any business unless you wear that. And I put up with that. And it was chip chisel, chip chisel, chip chisel all the time. You're a bit overweight, you look a bit shit. Are you tired or have you just been out on the razz all the time? Oh, you're going to another function at RAF Odium or RAF Linton-on-Ouse? Oh yeah, well, you know, it's not all that. Oh, do you know your husband's away? Yeah. Okay, well, you don't know what he's doing when he's away, do you? All the time. Drip, 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 drip. And when that went away, once I'd got over the shock of, you know, oh, by the way, you are no longer managing director of your own company, I actually sat back and I thought, ooh, hello, hang on, what's this feeling? This feeling is my shoulders not being in my ears. This feeling is not feeling like I'm not good enough. This feeling is actually, do you know, that's me. I'm still there somewhere. Wow, okay, I hadn't realised I'd gone, but I had. And my self-esteem and my self-confidence were absolutely shot. Honest to goodness, absolutely shot. And I was in a place where I didn't know anybody because I'd been away all the time, you know, down in London, etc., etc. And so it was like, right, I've got to start again. So the first thing I did was burnt the fucking suits. It was the best thing I ever did. It was even better when the fire engine from RAF Linton-on-Ouse, complete with burly firemen in, hello, you know, had to come and find out what was going on with the incinerator in my back garden. But it was so liberating. You know, in went the shoes. Sorry, ladies, they were Jimmy Choos. At least he bought decent stuff. But in they went, and that was so cathartic. Old life, fuck off. And it was burning away. And of course, I was wishing it was him. But, you know, there you go. And so I then thought, well, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do when I grow up? And I didn't really know, because I had no contacts, I had no business, and I needed to do something about that fast. And I knew I needed to network. I didn't want to, really, because I was just, again, confidence was gone, self-esteem was in my socks. I didn't really know what to do. So I decided that I would give 3 networking organisations a try. One of them involved 3 initials, where I turned up, and the person who met me at the door said, yeah, you're not really going to fit in here. We won't do business with someone like you. That was a nice start. The second one I went to was designed for new businesses in Harrogate. There were 3 of us for an hour. And there's only so many times that you go, you know, with somebody when you've worked out that, no, you're not really interested in making connections with them. So by the time it got to my 4 networking experience, let's just say I was not feeling the love for networking. I really didn't want to go. I was coming up with every reason why I shouldn't. And my husband, in that supportive way that he does, just went, oh, man up, wet pants, and go. So I went, and I left it to the very, very last minute. Now that I run a region in 4 networking, I'm mortified by this, because I didn't turn up until 8:29. And, you know, and I know now that the team will be going, she said she was coming, we're going to have to pay for her breakfast. But I did turn up eventually, and I'm hoping I could slide in and nobody would really know, and I could just sort of sit at the back and go, well, I did it and it was fine, it's going to be rubbish. But what actually happened was David Emsley, who was an area leader at the time, walked up towards me and said, hey, you must be Sheena, it's great to see you, come on in. Wow. That was the first time I'd had that reaction. I didn't join at my first meeting, I joined at my second meeting, and I went straight on a team. In the old days, it was operations assistant. These days, of course, we called it group coordinator. And that's where my 4N journey started. And as a new business, it was brilliant because it gave me all of those bits of help and support that I needed. And I carried on growing my business. And in my, second year in 4N, I had 180 trainers working for me through Lightning Training. I still do now. But in my second year in 4N, when I was on the team at Wetherby, as the operations assistant, it was 2010, and 2010 was my annus horribilis in a lot of different ways. In the February of 2010, my father died. Now, my business is called Lightning Training, and my father was a lightning pilot. And he was a very important man to me, and he died after a car accident, and it was all very traumatic, and it really knocked me for 6. And then in the August, on the 4th of August 2010, the anniversary is approaching, I was diagnosed with stage 2 invasive ductal carcinoma, otherwise known as breast cancer, or in my world, boob rot. And that was a bit of a killer moment, really, because my business was up here. Things were bubbling along really nicely. And then life came and kicked me in the grollies and was, you know, you've got cancer. I'm lying on the table having a biopsy done live because this cancer was so aggressive, as the doctor is having to tell my husband that I've just been diagnosed with cancer because I'm basically trying not to scream whilst they're cutting bits out of me and all that stuff. And I asked 2 particular questions of my breast cancer nurse at that time. The first one was, am I going to lose my hair? And the second one was, am I going to die? Well, I think you can guess which way round that went. Didn't die, lost my hair. This is now all mine. Fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. And then I had a choice. I could either give up or I could get stuck in and keep going. So I got stuck in and kept going. I worked all the way through chemo. And let me tell you, that's hard work. And there was one time when I turned up to do my ops assistant job at Wetherby, and the entire team did the whole, holy fuck, Sheena, you look awful. And I had no idea how I'd got there. And that entire 25-minute journey from Linton to Wetherby, I had no recollection of it whatsoever. Thankfully, somebody took me under their wing and took me home. And in the middle of all this chemo stuff, and it kind of takes up your whole life, you know, you live your world in a bubble of plastic wrap after chemo has happened. Everything is weird and fuzzy, you feel rubbish. And then just as you start to get better again, you go back and poison yourself all over again. And it's really aggressive treatment for the kind of cancer that I had. I got a phone call from the Learning and Performance Institute in the November. And they said, Sheena, we're going to have some awards next year. We'd like you to apply. And I literally went, don't you know what's going on with me? Everybody should know my life is a mess. You know, I have cancer. Don't you know who I am, kind of stuff. And they just went, well, all you've got to do is fill in a form. Like, oh, right, okay. Just fill the form in. So I filled the form in. I sent it off. I didn't think anything of it. Really didn't think anything of it at all. In the meantime, when I'd been to go and get my histology results, that's the day when you find out whether or not you're going to die. 4Networking as an organisation had trended Team Whyatt beats cancer across the UK at 1 o'clock, the exact time that I was getting my histology results. How cool was that? That was massively cool. And all of that was going on. I did Christmas. I wore a pink afro wig to the Christmas draw at RAF Linton. It's the stuff of infamy. And in the January, I got a phone call again from the Learning and Performance Institute who said, we've shortlisted you for an award. Would you like to come to the awards dinner? Yes, please. I said, can I bring my mum and can I bring Ollie and we all come for free? Never, you know, takes a whole bunch of balls to say no to somebody with cancer. So we all went for free, and the awards dinner was at the Dorchester. Now, one of the things during chemo particularly is your taste buds are shot and lots of things hurt. Indigestion is one of the things all the time. And I remember saying to my mum, I'm going to have a glass of champagne. Those of you who know me in the room will go, one glass, Sheena, really? But yeah, you know, I'm going to have a glass of champagne and I'm going to have a glass of wine with my dinner. I did both of those things. I was having a lovely time. And I'm chatting away with people on my table and they were doing all the awards and everything. And I looked up and I did a proper double take because there was me on the big screen at the back. Part of the double take because it was me with hair. And at that point, I was bold as a coot. You don't just lose the hair on your head, you lose your hair everywhere. You will only appreciate nasal hair when you don't have it. Let me just make that clear. So it was a picture of me, and I took that moment for me to go, oh, you know, why is that up? Why am I up there? And as that little bit of brain was going up there, they announced that I'd won Freelance Trainer of the Year. Wow. Which then meant I had to get up and walk the length of the ballroom at the Dorchester. I'd had 2 glasses of wine. I'd not had any alcohol in about 4 months, and I'm also undergoing chemo. Oh, crap. You know, so for me, it was just like, right, I've got to get to the end, and I've got to do it without falling flat on my face. So I got up, and as I got up, bless him, Ollie, man of steel, 9 tours now in Iraq and Afghanistan, fell to pieces. My mum fell to pieces. I'm desperately trying to keep it together. And I go, right, I'm going to start to walk up the room. And as I started to walk up the room, something really interesting happened. People started to stand up. And I properly did the whole, is there someone behind me? And then I realised they were standing up for me. And as I walked down that particular room, we've got, you know, massive companies, big L&D departments, people, my peers, the people I wanted to impress. The people that 4 years before, when my life was falling apart, wouldn't go anywhere near me with a barge pole. The people who 4 years before, when I'd come out of my previous company with all the trappings of success, that I realised I didn't actually want, didn't want to have anything to do with me whatsoever. And an L&D manager from a very large supermarket, who will remain orange, turned to his colleague and said, who's this? Who's coming up there? And the guy who was sitting with him, I still work with them often, rival supermarket, red, white and blue, said, that's Sheena Whyatt. She runs Lightning Training. He goes, all right, what's her story? And he just said, that's what success looks like, through hard work and sheer determination. And that's my story. From 0 to hero in the space of 5 years, through cancer, through war, and everything in between. And if I can do it, so can you. Thanks very much.
Smile, be chat, join for networking.